So, hey guys, I'm Sharice
And
and this is
chat.
Chet, and
Mhm.
we are back for another Insecure recap. We are recapping season 4, episode 6,
6.
Low-Key Trippin'. Um,
Lowkey done. Yep.
it's Low-Key Trippin', right?
Done.
Low-Key Done. And
Yep.
so, I think this episode was a great follow-up to last week's blockbuster. It was more low-key, more slow-paced.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. It wasn't, of course, I expected a little more hype afterward,
hmm
but I think it was a pleasantly paced episode for what just happened last week.
Honestly, I feel like this actually gave me a little bit more excitement than I thought it would have because I thought the entire episode would have just been straight filler, like very subtle throughout the entire thing. But
Mhm.
we did get a little bit of comedy throughout, so I was actually
Well,
excited.
honestly, I felt I think it was a filler,
hmm
but there was one part of the episode when she was running down the girl that had me dying. And that was the best part for me. But I mean, I
That's what
understand
I was talking about. That was the best
it
part.
was the best part. And I wish it was real, but I guess it was more of a reflection. You know,
Right.
Issa was doing a lot of reflection this episode. So we see the episode open up with her in bed,
Yeah.
her thinking or going back to the fight between her and Molly. So it's clearly something that is at the top of her mind. She is very concerned about it. It's bothering her. And then we see her go into, she goes onto her phone and she starts looking at reviews from her block party. And this is something that we discussed last week, that we hoped that the fight wouldn't have really kind of thrown off her hard work, and we see that it didn't, because everyone had an amazing time. Everyone
Yep.
wants to know
hmm
when's the next party. So I think that part of her career is, it's fine. Like, we see that everyone's enjoyed it and they want to know when the next one is.
Right, and I'm glad that there is actually no mention of it at all. At least they didn't show any of the
Mhm.
comments that made mention of the supposed shootout at the
Yeah.
block party.
So I do think that was a pretty, I think it was pretty good. And then after that we see her basically having a conversation in the mirror about who
Yeah.
should call who first.
hmm
And when I think about it, who do you think should be the first one to make the call? Like, would you call Molly, or do you think Molly should call Issa?
Well, when you think about it, you sort of try to say, well, who's the one who got upset? So in this situation, it was Molly who was upset over something, whereas Issa, that was like the last thing on her mind. I think that they should somehow both try to come together mutually, but I
Mhm.
I honestly think I don't think anybody should be the one to pick up the phone. Actually, I think Molly should be the one. Molly,
Well,
yes,
I
Molly.
definitely think it should be Molly, because I think the onus is always on the person who started it. I
Right,
mean, maybe she didn't start the entire process of the breakdown of
right.
communication, but I do think she is the one who caused this big blow up at the block party. So I think the onus is on her, and the
Yeah,
responsible thing is to at least text or call and say, hey, um, let's just talk about things. I think that's honestly what should have happened, but of course it's not a perfect world,
right.
and things rarely go as they should. And so
hmm
I think that's going to be the next thing. Who's going to call who? Because
Yeah,
we see Issa's basically ignoring everyone.
right.
She's saying she's fine. Her brother
hmm
calls her to check up on her. Kelly is very um, consistent in calling her,
Right.
checking on her, telling her that you know what's happening. Are you going to call Molly? And
Mhm.
she's like, no, I'm not going to call her.
Mhm.
And basically during the episode we see Kelly talk about, when her, a throwback to her and Tiffany's
Mhm.
kind of argument, and she's like,
Right.
if it goes so far, then it's really hard to come back from.
Mhm.
And so we see that. Also, like in this episode, we see a lot of hints um, from the different the relations that Issa runs into in this episode, that kind of hints to friendship and resolving things or getting rid of things.
Yeah. Well, well, going back also, we also see that Nathan checks in on her,
Yes,
which
we
is,
do.
I'm really interested to see what this love connection or this situation between Issa and Nathan is going to turn into.
Hmm.
Uh,
I'm excited for them to explore it because it seems like Nathan is a very good guy.
yeah.
Um, he seems like he has his head on his shoulders, and he
Mhm.
really is a cheerleader for Issa. Like he was like, oh, the party was great, and I want to help you, and I think that was a pretty good. Like she was very apologetic of the fact that she didn't want him to think that she was using him. And so he's like, oh, this, I am happy to have been of service to you, which I think is very like admirable, because some people would have been very disappointed, like, oh, you just use me to get to Andrew, but he was like
Yeah.
all for it, he was like happy about it.
Yeah. He's like, you needed help and, you did this. But
Exactly.
going back to what you were just saying, how her experiences in this episode were sort of a reflection of the relationships in her life,
Mhm.
were you referring to her wanting to be Miss Captain Save the Day?
Well,
Uh,
yeah, she was Captain Saver,
yeah.
like
Hmm.
we see her in the grocery store.
Hmm.
Pregnant lady needs help, with her groceries, and she volunteers. And I'm like, Issa, you
Hmm.
barely have money to take care of yourself. But I
Right.
guess she was trying to, like when something is going wrong in your life, then you're like, oh, well, let me just do this good deed so I can feel a little better about myself. I
Yeah.
think that's really what this whole
Mhm.
episode kind of was like, because she, of course, tried to help the pregnant lady, but then the groceries were like $107, and her card declined. And the pregnant lady was like, you know what, homie, don't even worry about
Right.
it no more.
The gift you gave me today was perspective.
It was hilarious.
I was like, well, excuse you, okay?
You clearly don't need it that bad.
Right.
And then after that, we see her. For some reason, she
Mhm.
picks up this old guy named George. Right? Is his name
Right.
George?
I forget his name, but he was
I
definitely
think I think
elderly gentleman.
his name was George, and she decided to give him a lift because he missed the bus. And I think he was very hilarious. He was very much a character, and so
Yeah.
we see on their ride that he basically talks about kind of knowing when it's time to let things go.
Right.
And so I think that all of these things gave Issa some
Hmm.
type of perspective in the way that she should handle her
Hmm.
relationships moving forward. So I think that that conversation was a good one that she had with him. It was also funny because
Yeah.
um, we see them bond a little,
Hmm.
So I really enjoyed that.
Definitely was an hilarious scene, especially with the turn up the AC. Oh, it's a bit too
Exactly.
cold. Then turn up the heat. There's a furnace in here. So that was fun. But that was there any significance when she dropped him off and then he opened the door and the guy was like, "Dad."
Yeah, I was thinking that. Like, I was like, is this, I
Like,
thought, like, are we connecting some type of dots? Like, is this his long lost son?
right.
Because he had this picture up, and it's clear that he probably hasn't been to this house enough or hasn't
Mhm.
been there before. So maybe that was George reconnecting with his son, or maybe the story that he told in the car was about his son, that they somehow kind of fell off, and now this is his chance to get it right, maybe.
That's probably more likely because I was almost thinking, is this a character that's going to be introduced and tied in with the rest of the cast?
Yes. I think it was just like, I was like, okay, for me this episode was like, this is too many new characters, like I
Hmm.
am not used to seeing these people.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. Like it was refreshing because the only old characters we see are kind of like like they don't even get that much screen time.
Hmm.
So I was very happy to see that. But the next group of characters that we see on the episode is
Right.
when Issa goes to sip and paint, and I was very concerned. Like it's clear that she set this sip and paint up, but it's like, sis, you going to sip and paint by yourself? Like,
Hmm.
who does that?
Right. And shout out to Kyla Pratt, who I have not seen
Yes.
in a long time
I
on
was
television, but she had a little role.
Yeah, she, and she is like, she never left. She was still
Hmm.
amazing. And we see Issa went to Sip and Paint, and she met a group of girls who were clearly celebrating maybe their bachelor day out, or
Right.
they're just having this bachelor party.
Hmm.
And Issa kind of just sat with them, and they painted, and they started to get along. And of course, they again start to bring up the elements of friendship and sticking together, even though times get tough. So I
Hmm.
thought that was yet again another thing for Issa to think about. And I felt like she was kind of missing her friends, in my opinion. Like, oh,
Hmm.
I'm with these new people, and they have such a really amazing bond. So I think for her, it was very introspective, maybe again.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well when they were sitting there and they were like, we always end up forgiving each other. It's like, oh, I even forgave you when you slept with my brother. And then maybe she started to see like, maybe I should go and speak to Molly. So that was definitely something very interesting to see.
Exactly. And then, of course, when they were leaving, they decided to hang out some more. So I really thought, like, is this the beginning of Issa finding a new crew? Is this going to
Right,
be a thing? And of course, that wasn't the case, because these girls were simply having what was it, a scavenger hunt.
right.
This was a theme of their bachelor weekend.
Hmm.
Of course, they kind of dined and dashed and left Issa to pay the bill, which I
Right.
thought was hilarious. And then, Insecure does this thing where they have these, like, I don't know if it's a flash or like a imaginary
Mhm.
situation where Issa goes after the girls.
Right.
And the tax one, which I thought was flipping hilarious. I was like, if this is happening, I'm here for it.
Right. Because I was like, I actually thought it was bold because I thought the rest of them were going to jump her.
I thought that was hilarious. And so, of course, we see that she is just literally, like, she's just dreaming of doing this. And she does find them on the streets, but she
Mhm.
doesn't do anything because, of course, it's Issa.
Well, actually, those no, they were a different set of girls who looked like, yeah, they were a different set of girls.
Oh, because
Hmm.
this is
Yeah,
them.
yeah, they were dressed pretty. It's just another group of three girls who sort of looked like the other three, but no. Mm-mm.
Well, and then, of course, after that, she kind of comes down. Like, she was on a high the entire day, and she comes,
Hmm.
and I think it's just like, it just shows her that you need to get your life together. And of course,
Right.
while before we get off of these group of girls at the dinner, or at
Hmm.
the little drinks and sips, they started to get on about what Issa does. And Issa
Right.
started to tell them, like, she's a cultural, I don't know,
Curator.
curator, and she throws events that connects the neighborhood and people.
Mhm.
And of course, everyone was very interested in what she had to say and found her job to be cool and amazing. And I think that kind of gave her the validation that she was looking for from her friends.
Right.
And I thought that was very cool. And hopefully they weren't just gassing her up because they were just trying to be a friend for the scavenger game. But I think that she was
Well,
very she was
well,
worried about herself.
right after the dine and dash happened, I started to think of it in the way like, well, since they knew that she was this cultural creator, she's connected with celebrities, maybe she had the money in, they didn't feel as bad leaving this girl by herself, because I'm pretty sure she gave them a sad story, how she didn't have money. I would hope that those girls wouldn't leave her to pay for the bill by herself.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they still would have left her. But I'm trying to figure out how she paid for that bill, because her early
It,
in the day, her card declined.
mhm.
So I'm trying to figure out, like, I was dining and dashing as well. Like, you're only about to leave me with this bill.
Well, that's what I thought, with the flash forward when she, I thought she died and dashed herself and to go find the girls and then, hit them over the head with the painting. But I think that the difference between the grocery store and the dining and dash is like that was a legal situation. She could find herself in jail if she didn't pay. Or so that I think she had to, do it.
Yeah, but I think that so after that situation, of course, she was like, you know what, like, I need to get my life together. And that's when
Mhm.
I see her make a phone call and was like, hey, can I come over? And for a moment, I
Mhm.
thought she was either calling Nathan or
Mhm.
Lawrence. And I was like, I hope this isn't Lawrence.
Mhm.
And of course, we see that she called her mom,
Yep.
which, when everyone is going through something, they go back home and have that conversation with their mom.
Another shout out, Wendy Raquel Robertson. I always love seeing her when she acts in roles. And when she used to play in the game on BET and the CW, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I love her so much. And I think this is the first time we've seen her and her mom really have a one-on-one conversation or her connect with her mom, right?
Wait, is this the first, was that the first time that she was cast or played that part? Because I don't ever remember her mother being on the show.
Well, didn't we see her at well we saw her this season when Stanley is his name? Like he broke his leg or did something to his leg on Thanksgiving, which was like a 2 episodes ago maybe.
Oh, really? Oh, I missed
Yeah,
I that
when Issa and her
that went
brother went
right
to
over my head.
when Issa and her brother went for Thanksgiving dinner by the
Hmm.
mom's house, and the mom was outside of the ambulance. I think that was her. So I think she was on this season, but I don't think she was on
Oh,
before.
I missed that. That was the Thanksgiving. Okay, I
Yeah,
must have been.
Thanksgiving when her mom was like, you and your brother should stay with the twins till we get back from the hospital.
Hmm.
So yeah, she was on this season. I'm pretty sure it's the same mom, but this is
Hmm.
the first season. This is the first season that we're seeing her and her mom like have a conversation.
Right.
And so the conversation, you could tell something was bothering her. Her mom was,
Hmm.
asking her about the party, and um, I think her mom didn't expect her to be so emotional because, of course,
Right.
her mom could have clearly see that there was something wrong with her, and she embraced her. And then this is when Issa had it.
She's like, come in, come in, come. And she just broke down and started crying.
Yeah, and then of course her mom gave her advice about being proud of her, and I think it shows that with a lot of Black families, there
Hmm.
isn't a lot of communication. We rarely tell each other that we're proud of each other, and so I think the validation that she was looking for
Right.
came from the right place, which is
Exactly.
a mother and a family. So I think
Mhm.
that clearly put her in a little better spirits.
And then it's great that her mother embraced her because like you said, in a lot of Black families, it's like what you have to be depressed for.
Exactly, you
Mhm.
just threw an amazing event, and you should be proud of yourself.
Right.
I think it was a great bonding moment. Um,
Hmm.
and it's needed, especially since she doesn't have anyone at the moment that she wants to or can talk to, because Molly would usually be that person for her. And now that she doesn't have a person, she has to go back to her mom.
Yes, exactly. I mean, Molly was her go-to person. She never really necessarily went to Tiffany or Kelly for her main problems. It was always Molly, and so it's like, so that sort of dynamic also makes me wonder, like, is it like Kelly and Tiffany meets Molly and Issa? Because it seems like Kelly and Tiffany are really close, and then Issa and Molly, and then the two friend groups just come together.
I definitely think so. And we also see it because now Tiffany is the one, no, Kelly is the one who's trying to connect Issa and Molly. And of course, she says, when Issa asks, are you having these same conversations with Molly that you're having with me? And she's like, yes, yeah, of course I am.
Mhm.
And so I guess, I don't know if they ever divulged how the group came to be friends, but I think
Mhm.
that would be a great flashback so we can get like some insight on how this relationship between everyone began.
Right. And then after visiting, that makes a lot of sense. After visiting her mother, she goes home, has a little bit of a clearer mind, a little bit more of a realization. She lights herself a little, and she gets on her laptop, and then she starts going back and commenting or replying to all the comments on the reactions to the block party. And she sees that it makes her happy again because the person was like, where can I find more things like this? And she's like, I got you, coming soon.
Exactly. So
Which
mhm,
hmm
I think it was great for her to. One thing that I didn't like about the entire Molly situation is that she really took away, she kind of robbed Issa of her moment of celebrating her success.
right.
I feel like instead of celebrating her success, she was really mourning the loss of her friendship, or what
Hmm.
seems to be the loss of a friendship, that she didn't take the opportunity to step back to see what an amazing job she did or what she actually accomplished, which is kind of difficult because like you did that, girl. Like all of these seasons you've been pushing to have this event and you had it, and you can't even see what a success it was, that you're like in this mood and you're second guessing yourself after such an amazing event. So I found that to be kind of sad.
Agreed, 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 100%. She, she could have come out. She probably wouldn't have half the depression she had the next day if that whole situation didn't happen. Well, obviously, that's what the whole episode is about. Like, her trying to navigate, her day. And I feel like that's why she was trying to overcompensate by helping everybody else just to make herself feel better. So it was coming more from a selfish place to help herself.
And I think it kind of made her second guess her next move
Yeah.
and second guess what all of this is for, because she didn't feel that she was a success, in my opinion.
Hmm.
So I think, now after she's had this day and she's talked to
Right.
her mom and she's, back to her normal self, she's able to see what a success she was and the success she has began to create her own lane, that she, she's going to go on to create even more events for the community.
Yeah. Exactly. And then after she has a little pick me up moment after visiting her mother, replying to the comments, she's like, okay, let me go out for a midnight snack to go pick up some Ethiopian food. And but as she's about to walk into the restaurant, who does she see?
A BFF Molly, which I
Mhm.
thought was, first of all, I was like, I know she's gonna either see Molly, it's gonna be Molly, or is it gonna be like Lawrence or somebody?
Mhm.
And of course, we see Molly sitting in the restaurant. I think it's probably their spot, which is clearly why
Right.
Molly's there. And maybe she's probably going through the same emotions as Molly is going through, which is why she is also at the same restaurant.
Mhm.
And of course, we see Issa take a minute to like ponder if she's actually going to go in the restaurant, kind of, you know, figure out what she's doing. And then, of course, at the end, she decides, I'm not going in. And she turns around and leaves, which I think it was a pretty big thing, because it's just like you could have just gone in, you could have just
Mhm.
food, but of course, they would have had to have some type of interaction, because
Right.
you would have just ignored her. I mean, I would have ignored her if I was hungry.
Mhm.
But it would have been unnecessary. And she was like, you know what? I'm not even
But
in.
question, do you think that would have been the right time for her to approach Molly? Do you think Molly would have been calmed down enough?
Honestly, I would, if it was me, I wouldn't have even cared if you had calmed down, because I would have simply came in, gotten my food and left. I would have not even acknowledged. I might have just been like, hey, or whatever, but I don't know if I would have acknowledged you.
Who is she? I don't know her.
I don't know you. Just the same way you disrespected me at my event, I'm gonna disrespect you when I see you.
Mhm.
And that would have been it. But I think ultimately she made the right decision, because she probably wasn't in the space to even talk to her. So I,
Mhm.
instead of causing another scene in the public, let's just take it somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah, makes sense.
So
And
mhm.
yeah, and that was this week's episode.
And that was this week's episode of Insecure in a nutshell. I
Yeah,
think it was a pretty okay episode. It wasn't anything special. It was just
it
a
was a great follow up. It
yeah,
was
good
uh,
fall.
based on the pace how this show usually goes. I thought it was a little bit more than what I expected. I thought this show was going to be very blah. I
Yeah.
mean, this episode, but it gave us a few moments that we actually could laugh, and I enjoyed it. I appreciated it. So it gave me more than I expected.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I didn't think that this would have been the route. I thought maybe there would have been more of a Kelly kind, like they would have gotten together. Like she wouldn't have been
Mhm.
ducking and dodging Kelly and Tiffany,
Right,
or other people. But and I thought we would have seen at least more of Molly and
right.
in this episode,
Mhm.
following up on their part in terms of the
Mhm.
part Andrew played in, explaining to Molly or Molly explaining to him. I thought we would have seen more of that, but
Right.
I guess that's probably going to be for later episodes. So I think it was not a bad episode at all. And so I guess we'll just have to wait and see how the relationship continues to unfold next week.
Well, we won't get that next week. What we get next week is more. Speaking of Molly and Andrew, we get a destination episode, and next week is the episode that I think Jay Ellis Ross, who plays Lawrence, he's directing that episode, and it's going to be set in Mexico. And that episode seems to be completely revolving around the relationship of Andrew and Molly, because it looks like they're going on a double date or a group vacation with Andrew's brother and his wife.
Mhm. Well, I think that one is. I think I read some. I read the, I guess, review, not the review, but the about the episode. And I think there's going to be some drama.
Mm-hmm.
Molly not being able to let go of something. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that is going to be a very good episode in terms of Andrew, the dynamic between Andrew and Molly, and seeing if they're really going to be there for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, it's also goes to show that they definitely are having more episodes this season because they are completely steering off from the main character, who is Issa, and
definitely,
giving them a whole episode to focus on them.
yeah, I don't know if I like that, but I don't know if they
They have
deserve that
time. They have
episode.
time.
I don't know, but I guess. But it'll be interesting not to have an episode with Issa if that is like the bulk of the episode is going to be focused on Molly. But I guess that would make sense because this episode was revolving around Issa.
Right. And it goes to show Molly's focus is who? Her relationship.
Of course. So I think it was a great episode. I can't wait for next week.
As
Yeah,
always.
yes, I think I'm good. I think we're
Yeah.
good there.
There wasn't, last week was the episode.
It was
So, hmm
it wasn't as exciting, but it was slow paced and it gave us some food for thought.
I'm also interested in seeing how they're going to address Tiffany's postpartum.
Yeah,
If they're
because
going to still make it lighthearted, or if she's going to have a big breakdown moment.
I also forgot to address this, but we did see that Kelly is taking a greater
Mm-hmm.
step in helping her because we see Kelly with the baby this episode.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see Tiffany. So I do
Mm-hmm.
think that's going to be something that they're going to address probably later on in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see Tiffany at all. And we see Kelly like kind of managing with the baby, her leaving Tiffany's house. That was Tiffany's house, right?
Yeah.
She was
Mm-hmm.
leaving, and so it just, I think that that's going to be some type of discussion we have later on in the season as well.
Right. I'm feeling like I'm still in the insecure mood. After this, I'm going to go back and watch the Coachella episode from last season.
Oh wow, yeah, no, I'm not going to get that far.
But yes, this has been Sharice Major and Chad Kincaid. Mm-hmm.
As
With
always, as always, we are here to give you the review on Insecure every Sunday. It is Sunday, right?
yeah.
I am losing track of the days. Oh my
What
god.
is time? Time is just a construct.
No, it legit is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping everyone is still, following social distance rules. We're still locked down in the Bahamas. I know New York is still locked down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been challenging, but thank God we have shows like Insecure and Netflix. I've been watching a lot of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
Right.
going through old episodes. So
Mm-hmm.
just hoping everyone is keeping their head above water and just, hanging in there.
Absolutely agreed.
And so that is going to do it for us today. As always, you can find me on Instagram, of course, Facebook at SHESOMAJOR.
And you can find me on Instagram at Chat A Kincaid or the Kincaid Journal on YouTube.
And that is going to do it for today's review. We hope to see you guys right back here next week, Sunday, for another review of Insecure.
Take care.
See you guys.